I'm Paula Maccabee, and I am the Executive Director and Counsel for WaterLegacy. And the project that we've been doing to prevent sulfate pollution from existing mines is part of a story that goes back 15 years. For the past 15 years, WaterLegacy has worked in alliance with tribes to prevent sulfate pollution, which not only decimates wild rice, which is of vital importance to tribal people, but the sulfate also increases algae blooms, killing the entire aquatic life of lakes. And sulfate can also increase methyl mercury concentration in fish, making it unsafe for people to eat. And so what inspired us to do this project is looking at the damage to culture and people and ecosystems and human health resulting from this one pollutant. And Minnesota has had a rule on the books since 1973 to enforce a 10 parts per million limit on sulfate, and has simply failed to do so. So what inspired us is this is an area where we could really make a difference in protecting people and culture and ecosystems. And after 15 years of work fighting in the courts, working with the United States Environmental Protection Agency in collaboration with the tribes to clarify the law and strengthen the law, finally, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency was willing to go back and say to U.S. Steel, a great big multi-billion-dollar steel company, that they needed to control sulfate pollution at the Keetac taconite mine and tailings basin because that pollution was decimating downstream wild rice. And what you're going to hear in this video is parts of our team, our lead volunteers on WaterLegacy's board, Jan Keogh and Ricky Defoe and Mike Maleska, and our staff, Sophia Patain, who's our community engagement director, and Alan Richardson, who's our organizer. And this is just a tip of the iceberg of the team that we brought together to push back against U.S. Steel and all the funded pressure against the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, with the hope that we and the tribes could stand with regulators in order to protect people and the environment.
Good day, everybody. My name is Ricky Defoe. I'm a Fond du Lac band member. The reason I feel important that the native voice is heard to protect wild rice. Natural wild rice in Minnesota, no other native plant embodies the cultural, the ecological, and the economic values that this native plant has. When we protect wild rice, then we protect biodiversity within the ecosystem. And I know, and you should know, that native people and the lands that we manage contain most of the biodiversity. It's the civilized so-called ones that have the least amount of diversity in them. We love our wild rice. Our wild rice is one with us. It's in our history, our sacred stories. So again, we need our wild rice, and so do you.
Hey, goodbye. My name is Jan Keogh. I'm a wetland ecologist who retired from a career in research in aquatic science, past president of the Society of Wetland Scientists. I attended the September 3rd public hearing on the MPCA denial of the variance from the sulfate standard to U.S. Steel. What surprised me was the many intelligent and educated people who choose to ignore the rigorous science that show the wild rice standard is to be robust and necessary to protect our wild rice resources, as well as prevent mercury from getting into the food chain. People who say they care about clean water, they care about our lakes, they want to protect wild rice, but would let U.S. Steel release sulfate and other pollution, it's just baffling.
I'm Alan Richardson, community organizer with WaterLegacy, and there were some challenges turning people out to that hearing in Virginia on September 3rd about sulfate limits. There was a lot of fear going into that hearing. I believe that we are the ones who requested a police presence. And the room was certainly full of people who responded to us as though we were trying to deprive them of their livelihoods, which is not at all where we're coming from. And I think we were all inspired by the number of people who came out in spite of those sort of unfriendly conditions, and they had their voices heard, and and I think that made a real difference. Like, our estimation is that a third of the verbal comments in that hearing were in favor of sulfate limits, and we take that as a significant victory.
Hi, my name is Sophia Patain. I serve as the Community Engagement Director for WaterLegacy. During this comment period, I help people provide comments online and share their perspective with decision makers at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. There were several barriers that we had to overcome to support public engagement. Initially, the MPCA made it difficult for people to comment. The comment website itself was unwieldy and confusing. There was also no plan to hear oral comments at the September 3rd meeting. We successfully worked with MPCA staff to change this. The next challenge was a high level of fear and anxiety around speaking up. I was surprised by the intense hostility that we encountered from a number of industry supporters. Because of this hostility, several people told me they were afraid to comment. I've never seen that level of fear during a public comment period. It was a significant barrier to participation, but we energized our allies and worked with people to empower them to comment. As a result of our engagement and our work in relationship with many, around 500 comments were submitted into the public record for the comment period on Keetac's permits.
So now you've heard from part of our team about what inspired us, what surprised us, and what challenged us. And this is a really good example of WaterLegacy's work and the importance of contributions from Kinship Earth, because we could not have known in advance how critical the Keetac sulfate permits would be and how much opposition the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency would face in trying to enforce the law. But because Kinship Earth doesn't ask us to plan way in advance and doesn't require us to fill all kinds of paperwork, we were able to use that support to engage the community, to partner with the tribes, to bring people to a very contentious hearing, and to get practically 500 comments just from our own supporters, each one saying that it's necessary to protect the wild rice, to protect the water, and to protect the fish from sulfate pollution. So thank you so much.